Alright, watch fans, look, I know we just did a hotness pick, but I'm so excited about this one, this new one from Android. I had to jump right into it and not give it a lot of time in between. I could not wait, literally, to be able to get this one out. Very, very excited because I think it really is probably one of the best deals you're going to find on an Android timepiece, especially once I get into this. So to start with, I just wanted to show you the two options. Now what we're talking about here is model number AD678, which is the Skyguardian automatic. What you're going to see here, first of all, is two options that are available. You saw the images up above, but here's the video real quick, and then we'll get into a detailed review. You've got the green dial option here that you can see that is running, and then you also have the black dial. Now, the real difference, and only difference you're going to find between these two timepieces is going to be the dials. Now, the dials on these is going to give you, as I said on this one, black, but as I hope you can notice from this, it's not a true jet black. You are getting a charcoal undertone, and there is a little bit of a sunray finish that is done on this. Let me see if I can rotate this just a tad without getting too much glare going on, so you can see the rotation of that and you can see that pop up. The other option, the green option here, is going to give you more of a matte finish. Now, because this is a military-inspired timepiece, also at the same time a pilot-style timepiece, or has elements of a pilot-style timepiece, I think this green, which is kind of an OD green, is really the option. If I had to choose between the two, I don't think you could go wrong with either one, but if I had to pick between the two, I think the green is the most unique. I think it's going to stand out more, and I think it plays best to the military inspiration that goes behind the Skyguardian. And notice it's a little bit more of a flat finish. There is a slight radiance to it, but I think the radiance stands out more on the black with a little bit of charcoal there. So at this point, let's go ahead and take a detailed look at this timepiece. Alright, let's go ahead and take a more detailed look at the Android Skyguardian here that you see, and I went ahead and picked my personal favorite, the green dial option. Again, nothing wrong with the charcoal black version of that, but I think this one will also stand out better a little bit on the video. So as we go into taking a look at this, first of all, a lot of you have been sending me notes saying, hey Mike, 52 millimeters, 55 millimeters, give us something a little smaller, a little smaller. Well, you've got that in this particular instance. It's a 48 millimeter case diameter, and in this particular instance, I'll show you some other features of this. I think it will fit all but the tiniest of wrists very well. So ladies, this is something that you could pull off, as well as the gentlemen. And even as much as early as over the weekend, or as far back as over the weekend, I got another question in regards to measuring diameters on watches. I know a lot of you folks are new. Watches typically are not measured this way, meaning 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock. Watches, when you hear a case diameter, they're referring to 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock, which could also be said of 2 o'clock to 8 o'clock. It's the same thing, and it never usually includes the function pushers, the crown, or anything else. Now, there are exceptions to that, but those are few and far between. So we are talking about 48 millimeters, 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock on a 316L stainless steel case, done primarily in a brushed finish. Now, I'm going to turn this a little bit for a second so you can see the side of the watch. So as we go ahead and do that, as you can see, it's not a terribly thick timepiece. It is only 16 millimeters in thickness, and I hope you can see that brushed finish, that vertical brushed finish. meaning it goes this way as opposed to this way. That is a more expensive finish done on the brushing. Many of you have heard me talk about that. The bezel that's been done on this, you can see it is done in an angle, circular brushed finish, but notice just a hint of the high polish in a slight divot, more or less, that's been cut into that fixed bezel. Now, one of the things that I said about this fitting a smaller wrist, notice the lugs. The lugs are very short. What that's going to mean is it's going to sit on top of the wrist easier. So it really doesn't make a difference if you have a large wrist or a small wrist. When you combine that with a more wrist-conforming strap, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, that is really going to make it sit on the wrist very, very easily. Now, this watch goes for, on Wingsight, on AndroidUSA.com, if you were to really shoot in there real quick right before I launched this Hotness Pick, you would see it at a price of $350. And it goes for that price all the time. Now, he has done this at a slightly lower price in the past. I'm well aware of that, but at $119, because one of the things you'll notice, first of all, is this red custom Android secondhand. Notice the sweep that's being done on that. That is a good indicator that you're getting an automatic movement, which in this case you are. You are getting the 24 jewel NH35A. We'll get into the movement a little bit later. I'm going to do a little section just on the movement itself. Now, the strap. Let me flip this all the way around so we can take a look at that. What I want you to notice is that you're getting genuine leather that's been done on this timepiece, slightly pebbled texture in the leather on the top side. You're getting custom box stitching going both sides of the strap. Now, the box stitching is reminiscent of a pilot style timepiece, as are the two rivets that you see being done. There's a matching set on the other side of this timepiece as well. Again, that is going to be going into the pilot style configuration on this timepiece. This is a quick change pin. I'll show you some more on the back side of the strap in just a few moments. But it is genuine leather, so it is going to be extremely comfortable, easy to take on, easy to take off, 24 millimeters wide. And by the way, when we talk about a strap, we're usually talking about the area right here in the lug area. What would it take to fit in between those two lugs? So if you wanted to add a bracelet, you would go out and find a 24 millimeter wide bracelet that you liked, and that 24 millimeters should fit in there. And again, those are quick change pins that have been done on this particular timepiece. Overall weight on the leather strap, which is about a little over 4.5 millimeters in thickness. Let me try and show you that as well from a little bit of a side view there. So we're talking about the thickness, very wrist conforming, very comfortable, about 8 3/4 inches, I believe is what the rating for that is. Now, I'm going to go ahead and show you the crown on this, because there's a couple of things about this. First of all, extremely durable timepiece, because it is 200 meters water resistant. And let me get the right angle here. What I want you to do is look at the crown. Now, to accommodate the 200 meters of water resistance, that is going to be a screw down crown, meaning you want it fully screwed down when you're not setting the time or the date. But I want you to notice these cutouts that have been done, the texture, for lack of a better term, on the crown. First of all, it is something that allows you to grip the timepiece or the crown easier for manipulation, to screw it down and unscrew it, especially if the watch is wet. Now, obviously, you're not going to go diving with the leather strap on there, but did I mention yet you're getting a rubber strap at that $119 price along with this watch? Yeah, more on that in a minute. But 200 meters water resistant. But what I want you to notice here, and this is something that a lot of folks would have overlooked, and I hope this shows up. I'm shooting this in high def, so I hope it really shows up. Notice that these are not straight lines. They're done at a slight angle, almost a gear style, but not at, you know, a straight. If I turn this straight on, it doesn't fit. And of course I've got it unscrewed to be able to show you the hacking. These are set at an angle, which is a little bit more of an expensive way to be able to do that. It was a nice touch by Wing for form and functionality. And there, of course, you can see the AD logo, Android logo, that has been done on the side of that. Dual keeper on this particular strap as well. So overall, a great looking timepiece at a fantastic price. Now, there are a couple of things I want to delve into a little bit more. One is going to be the movement, and the other is going to be the Tritium gas tubes. Old habits die hard. So we'll take a look at the Tritium first. Okay, so Tritium 101, for those of you that may be new to this, or maybe not new, but just not overly familiar with Tritium. What are we talking about here? Well, as far as luminescent material goes, this is going to really be overall the brightest and longest lasting. So what you're getting on this particular timepiece is two colors of Tritium. Okay, you're getting an orange here. Now this is the one that you're looking at right above the 12 at the top of the case that's going horizontal. Okay, that's going to be orange. Now on the broadsword style hands, the hour and the minute hand are also going to be orange. On the outside track at each one of the hour indicators, meaning like the one here at the 1, 2, 3, we're talking about on the very outside track, those are going to be green. So those are at the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then of course 12 being orange, as well as your hour and minute hand. Your custom metallic red on the Android second hand does not have illumination. But in addition to that, you've also got Super Luminova that's being used on the other hour markers that you see here, and here the numerals going all the way around that. So you've got two types. But Tritium are special tubes. It's a special kind of lead that is coated on the inside with a very special phosphorescent material. Then they use specialized lasers to cut those. They fill those tubes with the tritium gas and then seal it. Now the reason they use tritium gas is it's a slightly radioactive material. So as it is throwing off electrons in that gas, it bangs into, like this. By the way, hardened impact resistant mineral crystal that's done there. I don't think I mentioned that yet. But those electrons bang into that phosphorescent material, causing it to glow. The impact causes the glow. Now what's cool is this Super Luminova that's done on the other markings, right? The Super Luminova is only going to glow when it has been exposed to an external light source, right? Sunlight, indoor light, your flashlight, whatever. Tritium, on the other hand, does not need that. It is glowing right now, even though you cannot see it. And it glowed. The darker it is, the brighter it is going to glow. You could take this watch, put it in a drawer for 5 years, pull it out, and it is still going to be glowing and functioning. Has a half-life of about, I think it's 7.5 years or so. Now, which means that that tritium in about 7.5 years is going to be half as bright as it was the first day you got it. 7.5 years later, you would cut that 50%, and then it's going to be 25%, and so on. So really, the luminescence on this watch is really probably, in all practical points and purposes, going to outlast you. Orange and green are the two easiest to read of those colors. And by the way, it is more expensive. That's why you don't see more companies using tritium tubes, because you have to go through a company called MB Microtech. Remember when I said it's a slightly radioactive material? You have to have a special license to do this. So you have to pay MB Microtech, which is a step that takes longer, and obviously time really is money when it comes to manufacturing something like this. So it costs more as far as time goes. You're kind of at their mercy. You have to ship it in a particular way. It has to take an extra step to get there, and then shipping from them to your facilities. So it is expensive all the way around. Now, one of the things that you should know is that this is T100 tubes. Now, what does that mean? Usually you'll hear T25 or T100. These are T100. This is how tritium works. Now, tritium is measured in what's called millicuries. M-I-L-L-I-C-U-R-E-S, or it's abbreviated MCI, little m, capital C, little I. Now, when you see T25, that means that the manufacturer has used up to 25 millicuries of tritium inside of the tubes. T100 means that they've used more than that 25 and up to 100 millicuries of tritium in the tubes. So usually T100 is going to be the brighter of the options that are going to be available to you. So, longer lasting, brighter glowing, never have to worry about getting the watch charged so that it is glowing. Obviously for the Super Luminova that is going to be true, which is, when you take a step down, the next more expensive luminescent material that you're going to find is Super Luminova, and most of you will know Super Luminova, very bright, very long-lasting material. And I'm going to try and include an image of the luminescence, especially the tubes that are done on this. My camera and my hardened watch bunker here in Florida are not set up appropriately for the low light shots, but I've got something that Wing sent over to me. So that's going to be your luminescence that's done, and obviously it's not just this timepiece, it is the charcoal black option that is also available. That is going to be true of both of these particular timepieces. So you are getting true value, especially when you say this in reference to getting an automatic as opposed to a quartz for $119 plus the added bonus strap that's on there. And speaking of the movement, let's take a quick rundown of the movement, the automatic movement that is inside of this timepiece as well. Okay, next up is going to be the movement. This is, as you can see, and as you already heard me talk about, an automatic movement. In particular, it is the NH35A caliber movement being utilized inside of this. This does come from SII, which for those of you that don't know is Seiko Instruments Inc. That's what SII stands for. And the SII movements, I believe, are exclusively distributed by a company called Time Module. The exclusivity may not be correct, but I believe it is an exclusive operation that they've got going on there. This is a 24 joule movement, and I'm looking at this in my little tiny LCD. I don't know if you're able to see that there, but I wanted to talk about a few things in regards to this movement, about automatics in general, some of the terms that we use on this, and then about this specific movement as well. So this is what's referred to as a 12 line, L-I-G-N-E, French term, has to do with the size of the movement going across here. That is about 5.3 millimeters in thickness. It's a relatively low profile timepiece. Now, it's 24 joules. That's what I was referring to, that you can read here. That's how you can quickly distinguish between the little brother, the NH25A caliber movement, and the 35 is the jewel count. The 25A is a 21 jewel movement. The 35 is a 24 jewel movement. Now this watch operates at 21,600 vibrations per hour, or 3 hertz. Now a lot of folks always ask me is, what is it you're talking about with this vibration? So I hope this HD video is enough that you can pick up right here this little wheel. Let me see if I can scooch it in a little bit more. That's a Texas term for those of you that have never heard it. You know, kind of scooch it in. Right there. So what we're talking about is this wheel, which is called the balance wheel. You may have heard us talking about that. Going back and forth, back and forth. Okay? Each half tilt, meaning it goes right, left, right, left, right, left. It is doing this 6 times per second, meaning in 1 second you're getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? So if my math is right, that comes out to about 360 vibrations per minute, and if you carried that out to an hour, if my math is right, and invariably somebody's going to check me, it should be 21,600 vibrations per hour. Okay, that's what we're talking about. Now, when it comes to that number, when you talk about the vibrations, generally the higher the vibrations, the smoother the sweep you're going to find on that second hand on the front when you're looking at the watch run. For instance, the Valjoux 7750, Valgrange AO7 211, watches of that caliber are 28,800 vibrations per hour. This is 21,600. Now, it doesn't necessarily make this a inferior movement. The smoothness of that sweep is really going to be almost invisible to the eye. When you get below 21,600, which they don't do a lot nowadays, that would be more along the lines of what you would find in years gone by before they had the technology available to support these high vibrations, then it does become a little bit more of a noticeable feature. Now, what the NH35A is going to bring to the table, besides being an automatic, which is more expensive, a human person or a small team of people actually hand-built this movement for you in your timepiece when you purchase it, because there are no machines that can manually assemble, you know, the hundreds of parts. And I mean, some of these movements, depending on the complications and the detail work, the customizations that go on, you know, or you're talking 4 or 5, 600 pieces that go into that, and even more. So you've got that going for you as well, and that's why they're generally more expensive, and why this one's a really good value at $119. But one of the features of the NH series movements has to do with this piece right here. This is the rotor, this little guillotine looking piece that's right there. Most watches will rotate in either this piece in either a clockwise or counterclockwise direction. This is what keeps the watch wound while you're wearing it. That's why it's called an automatic or a mechanical automatic, meaning wearing it will automatically help keep it wound, because the movement of your hand, your wrist, your arm, through the day-to-day wearing of it, normal movements, causes this to swing, and it winds the timepiece. Now, a general rule of thumb is Swiss movements will wind, speaking of this rotor, in a clockwise direction. And Asian-based movements, which this one is, this is a Japanese-based movement, will typically wind counterclockwise. Now, I say general rule of thumb because this one is the exception to that particular rule. In this case, there's a dual set of winding gears here in the center, which allows this movement to wind in either direction. So, for instance, like an ETA 2824 that winds in both directions, like the Sellita SW200, which winds in both directions. I'm shooting this very early in the morning, so if I'm messing this up, don't yell at me. I believe the Soprod A10 also winds in both directions. That's sticking in the back of my mind, but I believe so. But what that's going to give you is obviously more components, which is more expensive, a little bit longer to build, a little bit more technically complex. So all of those things go into cost factors for this particular movement, but it is more efficient. Because what happens is, if you've ever seen any of the watch shows, if you watched me when I was doing the shows with Jim Skeltner, you watched when I was doing the shows with Tim Temple, those guys would take the watch and kind of thump it, and then you'd see that rotor just spin, 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 right? Especially like the Valjoux 7750. The Valjoux only winds in a clockwise direction. What is able to give that crazy spin is the fact that it's spinning in the opposite direction. It's just free spinning. There's no gears to engage it, so it will just free spin, and it's not winding the watch. You can't do that with this one because there's gears that keep it from free spinning. Either direction will cause winding power to be applied to the mainspring. So it means any movement of your hand, your wrist, your arm while you're wearing it is applying winding power to that mainspring. And speaking of the mainspring and winding power, SII rates this timepiece at about 40 hours of power reserve. It has been my experience, because, by the way, I own many, at least a dozen NH35 caliber movements in my own personal watch collection. You're going to get about 48 hours or so. Now, I'm not going to guarantee that for every one. You should expect a minimum of 40 hours, but most of you are going to get much more than that, or an additional 8 hours if you want to consider that much. But one of the other things I want to show you while I've got this, and obviously the exhibition case back, I believe I already mentioned the impact resistant mineral crystal that's been done on this, so you can see with this steel tool not causing any damage to this at all. Very durable. I'm going to flip this all the way around because we talked about the strap, and I just want to hit that 1 second too, because some of you may not have seen what we're talking about. So I say quick change pins right here. All you do is catch that little knob with a fingernail, pull it down this way, and that strap will come right off. You do not need a specialized tool such as this to dig in and catch the spring bar and pull that back. This allows you to do it with no tools, and trust me, this is a very cool feature to have, because if you're like me and you are dangerous with even something as simple as this, quick change pins are your friends. Now, you can see the bottom side of the two rivets that have been installed. That's not just set into the strap, that is a full rivet or dual rivet going through each side of the strap. Here's the other thing that I wanted to point out, and some of you have heard me talk about this, and it's some of the little things that we don't necessarily consider or think about when it comes to the leather straps and costs and quality. What I want you to notice is the stitching. Okay? If you ever want to know if you have a quality strap, check the back side of the strap and look at the stitching. What I want you to notice is each one of those stitches. First of all, notice how they're almost all the same size, right? Top to bottom on the individual going down. And notice they're uniform also, not only in size, but in keeping a very straight line. Now, I know a lot of you guys have found some really good deals on eBay or Amazon. Usually it's a Chinese piece, and not knocking the Chinese pieces. It's just there's some companies that just, mass produce these timepieces, and they're cool, and they're not very expensive. So you go, oh, that's kind of cool. It's only, 48 bucks. If it breaks, no problem. And when you've got it home on a strap, you may have noticed some stitches are shorter than others, and they kind of go out of line, and there may be gaps in between. Notice how everything is very uniform on this strap. Now, I'm only showing you this one piece, but when you get yours home, flip it over, have a look. You'll see it's all the way through on both sides of that. That is how you test or check for quality on your leather strap. Look at the stitching, not on the top side, because they can fake that very easily. What you're looking for is what it looks like on the back side. That's the important thing. Okay, so there again, $119 on a 48 millimeter timepiece that is 16 millimeters thick, that has T100 tritium tubes in 2 different colors, plus Super Luminova on a 24 millimeter wide genuine leather strap that's 4.6 millimeters in thickness, 200 meters water resistant, screw down crown, 24 jewel NH35A caliber movement operating at 21,600 vibrations per hour with a bonus 24 millimeter wide rubber strap from Android. Come on, folks. If that's not hotness, I don't know what is. So there you go. Limited availability on these. Okay, not just the number of days. We don't have a huge amount of these that Wing was willing to make as a hotness pick. So get your choice of color or both. Again, I'd go with that green. Thanks for checking this out. Let me know which one you pick up. It's the hotness.